Hey everyone, Eric here, and welcome to another episode of the Social Brain Rot Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will get some visuals. However, if you're listening to this on one of your favorite podcast locations, thank you very much. I'll be reading out as much as I possibly can, and you will hear any audio that may be playing in the background. However, I suggest if you feel like you're missing any visuals at all, please visit me at youtube.com at Eric Debunks to check out the full podcast with visuals included. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you've read the title of this video, you already know we're going to be talking about Jason Aldean and the controversial video and song Try That in a Small Town. Now, many of you may not know, I am a DJ and a producer in real life, and I've been involved in music since the 90s. So I know a lot about music and music history, and you know, country music isn't my favorite kind of music. But I'm very aware of it because as doing this as a business, you're kind of, dipping your toes in all kinds of music all the time. And especially the bigger artists, you're kind of aware of what's going on here. And Jason Aldean recorded this song, which I believe was out in May of this year. It came out in May. And it wasn't, I don't think it was performing as well. I didn't hear a lot about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure it did chart because it's Jason Aldean, but I'm not sure if it was like number one, number two, whatever. Doesn't really matter because the real controversy comes when the song was paired up with a video, and the video sort of brought the song out and did what it needed to do. Because I truly believe that all the controversy surrounding this song and the video was intentional. I think it was intentional because we live in a reactive world now, especially when it comes to social media. And I truly believe that Jason Aldean was very aware of the blowback and the controversy that would happen by putting this video out, because I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't know and that no one would have told him, especially people on his team that do promoting or even the people involved with making the video. I want to preface this by saying that Jason Aldean did not write the song. The song was written by three other people, I believe. So he's just performing it. And this happens quite often. This is not a dig at Jason Aldean. Artists collaborate with writers and musicians all the time to create music. Not everybody is a songwriter. Some people just like to sing. And so they have other people write songs for them. And it works out. However, in this situation, he didn't write the song. Not sure how much he had to do with the visuals in the video. I haven't been able to find the information on that. I know that, obviously there were people involved with making the video. Maybe that had something to do with it. Not sure. However, he is standing behind all of it, which tells me that it doesn't really matter if he wrote the song, if he directed the video, if he had any input in that. It doesn't matter because he's standing behind it. So let's pull this article up. I'm going to read out the important parts for those listening. So it says, how Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town became a political controversy. Now, this is from about a week ago, and there's a few updates to this. We have a video we're going to watch in just a moment from someone who is obviously a fan of Jason Aldean, who is sort of defending things, and we're going to debunk that as well. So thank you so much. Before we get into this, I want to remind anybody, if you're brand new to my channel and you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube or follow me on your podcast platform of choice. Give me a like on this video and definitely leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts and opinions in all of this. All right, we're going to scroll down here, and it says, what is Try That in a Small Town about? And here we go. This is basically the song in a nutshell. We're going to talk about the lyrics in detail as well. So the song has threats to outsiders, and the implications those outsiders are from cities, hence the title. Try that in a small town. I mean, who else would they be talking to? Plus, it uses the word the cities in the lyrics. Okay, it says they're present throughout the song lyrics, which begins with a list of crimes that might happen in urban settings. That's very important because I think a lot of people are missing that. The defense of this is that there's no mention of anybody's race, but clearly the song is talking about people that live in a small town versus people that live in cities. And you don't have to put two and two together to figure out exactly what is being spoken about that. It says sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjack an old lady at a red light. Then it crescendos into the titular chorus. There's another part here we're going to talk about from that particular lyric that I think is important. Don't know why they left it out of this article here. It says, well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross the line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. And let's jump over here to the actual lyrics so we can talk about something else. There was another portion of lyrics there that was missing that I think is quite important. And I'm honestly believe again that that article left it out. So after the lyrics here, because the full lyrics go, sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjack an old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. Hmm, interesting. You think that's cool? Well, act like a fool if you like. Cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag, and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. So let's kind of break those down a little bit, those lyrics. So the sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, it seems like it might be about something specific. Not totally sure. I think that's more of just a let's lead into the song with something a little that everybody can sort of understand. And then carjack, and notice they put old lady at a red light. That is a lyric that is intended to invoke an emotional feeling. The first line, not really. Second line, yes. Carjacking someone is bad in general, but you say old lady, then people start to feel, oh, they're carjacking an old lady. So it becomes more impressionable. And this is something that a songwriter does. They want to connect with the person listening. So that is an intentional lyric that actually was there to pull you in a little bit further after that first line. And then pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. Why a liquor store? Why is that? Was there a specific crime somewhere that this happened at? Or is this just a general stereotype about people who live in cities that they just rob liquor stores? It's quite interesting. You think it's cool? Well, act like a fool if you like. Okay, they had a little rhyming part there at the end. That's a kind of a throwaway line there. The next part, though, this is the interesting one, and this gets even more interesting when we get into the second verse. It goes, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, because they are pro authority, right? They're saying, we respect cops, we respect authority. And if you're going to cuss them out and spit in their face, we don't do that in a small town. We respect our authority in our town. That's what they're saying there. And I keep that in mind as we go through this. Stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. So they're insinuating that you should not be able to exercise your right to free speech by stomping on the flag and lighting it up. Those are protected under free speech. And I think it's quite interesting that they use those examples because again, it is them creating this emotional connection. They're speaking directly to people that they know will respond to that. And so you think about it like who would respond to that? Who are the people that would connect with that? And think about it for a second, right? And if you're not sure if that is free speech and you're going to try and debate me in the comments and go, no, he's not talking about that. He's just talking about respect the flag. You don't have to respect a flag. You do not have to. If you buy it and you own it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. That is part of being an American. And if you are an American and you support this 2A, you need to support the 1A as well. So here's the First Amendment provides that Congress make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercises. That's the one that everybody kind of knows, right? You can practice your religion and the establishment's not going to tell you can't. We still have stuff happening in this country that challenge this, but this is protected under the First Amendment. It says it protects freedom of speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So then I thought, this isn't specific enough because I know that people are going to watch this and they're going to say, well, that doesn't say specifically that it protects stomping and burning the flag. Well, it kind of does. Here's the ruling here. The majority of court, according to Justice William Brennan, agreed with Johnson and held that flag burning constitutes a form of symbolic speech that is protected by the First Amendment. So you can disagree with the ruling all you want, but legally, it is free speech. So that lyric is speaking of a suppression of free speech rights. Plain and simple, drawn out right there. And then we go into the chorus and think about all the things we just said in those first two portions of the song here. It goes, well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. That's a threat. That chorus is an outright threat to people visiting a small town. And if you think about it, the first portion of that, sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk, okay, I think we can agree that people shouldn't be walking around sucker punching people. Carjacking is bad. Don't see any issue with that. Obviously, don't want anybody pulling a gun on anyone, including the owner of a liquor store. So the first three lines of the song don't really say much other than like stereotypes and, talking about crimes, right? However, that second part, in a small town, they don't want you to cuss out a cop or spit in his face because they respect authority. They also don't want you to respect, if you come in a small town and you're burning your flag, a flag that you have purchased, that you own, and you stomp on it, they're going to chase you out of town. They don't respect your freedom of speech and freedom of expression. They do not support the First Amendment. That is what the chorus is telling me. And then we go even further here into the second verse, and it goes, got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're going to round up. Well, that shit might fly in the city. Good luck. So I want to ask you, where in the cities are they rounding up guns? Where is that happening exactly? I'd like to know what city they're going around and illegally seizing guns from people. Where is that going to happen? And then here it says he's got a gun that his granddad gave him. I have news for you, Jason. The people that are committing crimes with guns in this country are not guns that are handed down through family members. They're not nostalgic. These are people that are going out and buying the weapons and using them in illegal ways. And I'm not going to argue what we should be doing with the Second Amendment here, because I don't think it's really relevant to this lyric. However, this fear that conservatives push out, it happens a lot when when politics are involved and they're out there petitioning for votes. They want to say they're going to round up your guns. They're going to take them away. And they say it over and over and over again. It's something they use to try and get elected. It's the same thing with Roe v. Wade, except they did not think that would actually get overturned because they didn't want it to, just like they don't think and don't want the Second Amendment to be touched. They just want to use it to get elected. Nobody's rounding up people's guns. I can't see a time in this country that's going to happen unless someone with fascism comes into power. And I got news for you. Most of the people with fascist ideas about the way they should run this country are in the conservative section of the political spectrum. I know you don't want to believe that, but please point to me where someone who is running for office in a more progressive, left-leaning portion of this country has advocated that everyone should lose all of their guns and all of their rights, opposed to, I don't know, someone like Ron DeSantis, who wants to take rights away from tons of people, including adults in this country. However, once again, we're going to go back to that green text that you see on screen. If you're not watching this video, you can listen along. Cuss out a cop, spit in his face. So they respect authority, correct? They're saying that they are patriotic and they respect authority. Well, I'm just curious, who's coming around and rounding up your guns, Jason? Who would be doing that? Wouldn't be the military. Our military doesn't go into states within our country and enact any kind of laws. That's done by police officers. It could even be state police. But it is a police officer of some kind who would go around and enforce laws, meaning things like guns or restrictions of guns would be enacted by local or even statewide police officers. So you are threatening that they are not going to come and round up your weapons because you're going to fight back, right? So you respect authority until authority tries to do something that you don't like. And then all of a sudden, that's okay in a small town. Then it's okay. Then it would be okay to cuss out a cop and spit in his face if he came and tried to take your gun away. So you're advocating that that's my Second Amendment right. And if a cop tries to do that, I'm going to stop him. But then in the first verse, you also advocate for taking away people's First Amendment right with stomping on the flag and lighting it up. These little amount of lyrics say enough about what the song means that it's just hypocrisy throughout the two verses. And keep in mind, there's not a lot of lyrics in this song. For a song that 3 people wrote, there's not a lot of lyrics in here. And then we repeat that chorus again after this verse. Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. If you cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. Then we get to a really interesting line here. Now, a little backstory on me before we talk about this, because I think it is relevant. I grew up in what you would call a small town. It was an area here in Virginia where everybody knew everyone. Really, it wasn't a lot of people that didn't interact with each other, hadn't crossed paths with each other throughout the years. It's gotten much bigger now, but it was a small town, area here in Virginia. And we heard words all the time, racial slurs being thrown around and stuff like that. And they always bothered me. And most people in my age group were always bothered by it. But for a while, we had to listen to it because people around us said it. It was conversations that happened, things that were said that, people just accepted back then. I'm really glad that we don't accept that shit now because it was fucking awful. But back then it used to happen all the time and it was very, very, very disgusting. And what I always heard growing up, and if you grew up in a small town as well, you probably heard the term good old boys. Now, there's probably more than a dozen examples of how this term has been used over the years. Most of the time, it's speaking of like, white straight men who go out and hunt and do all of the things that you would probably imagine they do if they are conservative in a small town. And stuff like this, these terms have been used with racial connotations for a really long time, all the way up until 1996. Let's take a look here because this lyric says, full of good old boys raised up right if you're looking for a fight, right? Good old boys roundup. This is one of the few that I looked up that I thought I should share. So the Good Old Boys Roundup was an annual whites only event run by agents of the Bureau of Tobacco Alcohol. The Good Old Boys Roundup was an annual whites only event run by agents of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in Southern Tennessee from 1980 to 1996. So it was just a little while ago that this was it was not done anymore. Says a senior manager in the Knoxville U.S. Attorney's Office warned personnel not to attend due to reports of heavy drinking, strippers, and persons engaging in extramarital affairs. Yeah, they sound like a real good bunch, right? Real good bunch. All of these hypocrites living in a quote unquote small town, going out and looking at strippers, getting drunk, and having sex with anybody they want, whether they're married or not. After allegations emerged that a KKK attitude pervaded the event, a Senate Judiciary Committee was formed to investigate. Now, let's scroll down here and see some of the stuff that happened. Examples of racist exhibitions. A sign at the entrance to the event location noted a N-word checkpoint area. Yeah, nothing fucking weird about that. T-shirts were sold showing Martin Luther King's face in sniper crosshairs, O.J. Simpson's head in a, you can see there on the screen, it's a word, if you're an audio listener, you'll have to just imagine what I'm saying here. And black men sprawled across police cruisers with the phrase boys in the hood. Yeah. The good old boys connotation, that term, is not a good term. We shouldn't be using it anymore, especially in modern lyrics to songs, talking about what'll happen to people if they come into a small town. So now that we've dissected the lyrics here, let's talk about the video, because this is where it gets extra dicey here. So why is the video so divisive? Interspersed between shots of Aldean singing are clips of vandalizing riots and police encounters, much of which is evocating of racial injustice protest. I do believe Black Lives Matter is what is being stated as these protests in the video. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we have some information about the video here in a moment. We'll be watching a video talking about it. He goes, but much of the criticism around the video has less to do with these clips than its setting, the Maury County Courthouse building in Columbia, Tennessee, which serves as an American flag draped backdrop for Aldean and his band. The landmark was the site of race riots in 1946, as well as a 1927 lynching in which a white mob pulled an 18-year-old black man, Henry Choate, from jail. He was already in jail, and dragged him through the city by car, according to several media reports, including one detailed event from the Washington Post. Choate had allegedly confessed to attacking a 16-year-old white girl to protect his life, even though the girl could not positively identify him as the assailant. It's not going to take you much to understand why he probably allegedly confessed to this crime, especially when the girl could not identify who did it. I'll give you just a second to think about why that is. And anybody in the comments trying to gaslight people saying, well, he did confess. It says allegedly for a reason. It says allegedly. And we have to remember that word is important when we're talking about these things. Now, Jason Aldean pushed back on this. And I think it's pretty clear here he's either completely missing the point or he doesn't understand that visuals in a music video can add to the actual context of the song, which is why people do them, especially when you're standing in front of a site of a lynching, singing about chasing people out of your small town because of things that happen in the city. Doesn't take much to put two and two together with that. However, this was his response. He says, there's not a single lyric in that song that references race or points to it. He wrote on Twitter, try that in a small town for me refers to the feeling of community that I had growing up, where we took care of our neighbors regardless of our differences of backgrounds or beliefs. However, that doesn't make any sense because you talk about free speech oppression here. You contradict yourself about authority when it comes to police. You use the term good old boys who are raised up right and looking for a fight. Yeah, that sounds like talking about community to me. If anything, it sounds like if you're not from this place, we don't want you to come here. If you don't believe what we believe, if you don't think what we think, you're not supposed to be here in our small town. That's what those lyrics tell me. And now we're going to watch a video. The audio should be available for people who are listening on the podcast format. We're going to watch a video from someone here on YouTube that commonly gets involved in these conservative battles. I'm not a fan of the channel. However, there's some interesting stuff that is said in the video. It's a very short video. And it does give us some information about the removal of content from Jason Aldean's video. So we're going to watch that here and just listen to this.
Jason Aldean, the country singer, has been at the forefront of a major controversy, which shouldn't even be a controversy, but he was showing Black Lives Matter footage as something negative because, of course, Black Lives Matter in 2020 rioted, destroyed cities. It was crazy. Even around here in California, we had stores boarded up. We had shops broken into. We had people roaming in the streets. People got shot. It was a terrible riot, and people are trying to cover that up as some sort of civil rights protest. It was not.
It was a civil rights protest. It absolutely was. And this is something that happens quite often. It's pretty disgusting, honestly, is that conservatives who do not want to see marginalized groups get any kind of respect or anything done for them in terms of like visibility when it comes to the government and rights and things of that nature. They always pick out like this. They'll look and say the worst of the worst represents the entire group. We see it when it comes to crimes in certain neighborhoods, certain cities. We see it when it comes to any sort of outrageous content from a marginalized group. If one person from that community goes out and commits a crime, they are ready to paint the entire community for that. And so, yes, there were absolutely things happening during these protests that would cross the line when it comes to whether or not it's legal or illegal. However, that does not at all represent the entire community or the movement behind the community. But this is what they do. And this is why this song by Jason Aldean is so infuriating, because these are the kinds of people that support it, the ones that believe that free speech and marginalized groups are out there committing crimes and doing all these things. So you can't tell me, Jason, that your song doesn't represent these things when these are the people that are supporting your content.
Not. It was a bunch of people looting and rioting. It was disgusting. And so this has caused an issue with the mainstream media. They've gotten very upset at him. He's had to go out and defend it. And today, actually, that video had the Black Lives Matter footage removed. Now, there's a couple theories going around on this, and I'm going to.
So, so it seems as if the copyright holders hit him up and said, hey, we don't want you using our footage in your propaganda video. And so he had to remove it. It is legal. It is legal. If you are using someone's footage without permission and it's in some sort of context that does not look transformative or it's being misrepresented, people have the absolute right to reach out and say, hey, we don't want you to use that footage. It's very prevalent when it comes to like things like music and movies and things like that. It's not so common with people like what we're doing here, where we're podcasting and we're covering it in that way. But when you're using it in art, there's a very specific way that you have to use it or you're allowed to use it. And they had every right to reach out and ask that footage to be removed from a video.
To get to it as I show the news. So here it is. 6 seconds were removed from Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town video as controversy escalates. So he allegedly got a third party copyright clearance issue where this video was sourced improperly for the footage and they got him on copyright. So he was forced to actually remove it. About 10 seconds of the footage of riots and farmers from the clip. Now, the theories that are going around on the internet that this is a soft caving to kind of get, this out of here. It's using copyright as an excuse for it.
Well, it's not though. See, that's the problem, John. Here is that copyright is something that is done legally in this country, and yes, there are bad actors. However, bad actors can be prosecuted for wrongfully enforcing any kind of DMCA content. You know that. We all know that here on YouTube. If you go after a video and do it in a bad faith, or you're just outright lying, that's illegal. You can't do that. So if Jason Aldean, I'm sure he's got a big legal team behind him, looked into this and found out that, hey, this is wrong, they can't make us do this, then they wouldn't have caved in. They would have fought back and they probably would have made it a big deal. However, if it looks like it's legitimate, then they had to legally remove it. There was no other path for them. So all of these theories and controversies about whether or not it was legal is irrelevant, because if it was in fact illegal, I'm pretty sure they would have fought it and left the content in the video.
There's two possibilities. There's a possibility that that's the case. The other possibility is that this is legitimate, and they're of course trying to take him down and trying to, of course, harm him with copyright strikes and get rid of his videos and just bury him. So either way, this is going to be interesting to watch. We'll see how Jason Aldean responds to this, whether he's going to actually be out there and fight at the forefront and say, you know what, they removed these for copyright, but we're not going to stop telling the truth about what happened in 2020. We're not going to.
Well, here's the thing, and we're not going to watch the rest of his video here because I don't think it's really relevant at this point. The thing is, he's if the song is not about race, if the song's not about race, then why would he care about quote unquote telling the truth about what happened in 2020? That sounds ridiculous, John. It sounds ridiculous. If you support the song and you say it's not about race, then it should have nothing to do with any kind of rioting about Black Lives Matters, because that in fact was about race. So yeah, I mean, look, if the song is about community in a small town, then you don't need that video with that footage, right? You don't. Why not show shots of a small town? Why not show Jason Aldean in a small town, taking care of people in a small town, walking people across the street, standing out there protecting people? If it truly is about community in a small town, then that video did a really bad job of showing that. I mean, if the song isn't about race, then why did you include civil rights in the video? Why would you do that? Why would that even be there? That's what I mean. Like when we talk about social brain rot, which is the podcast, social brain rot podcast, we talk about the fact that people are either perpetrators or victims of social brain rot. And what happens is we have the people on the top end who think, hey, I can get away with doing this, so I'm going to do it. And people are going to fall for it. And then they do. And then we end up in the situation we're in right now, where you have people just sort of following along, being minions and believing, regurgitating, and can towing the line for all this, shilling on the front line for racist and bigoted content like this. And I was one of the people where the minute I heard that CMT had removed the video out of rotation, I thought, oh, here we go. This is the best thing that could have happened for Jason Aldean, because there's nothing a conservative bigot loves more than a martyr. They love a martyr. They love someone who's going to get struck down by the media so they can go out and empty their wallets and their pockets for this and spend money on this and share it with all their friends on Facebook and make t-shirts about it. So what I think at the end of the day, and we're going to get there here, we're going to wrap this up. We're coming up on a half hour now. Is I believe this was an orchestrated event. I believe that there were people behind the scenes with Jason Aldean that wanted the song to do more than what it was doing. It wasn't hitting the numbers they wanted it to hit. As someone who worked with Billboard back in the day, I know how that works. So they wanted to hit some numbers. It wasn't hitting those numbers. So they thought we need to do something a little bit controversial. controversial. So why don't we make a video that's going to be very controversial? Best case scenario is that, conservatives pick up the video and they start following along behind it and really support it because it shows all the stuff that we can use to sort of trigger them. Like the worst thing that could happen is gets removed from social media, and and I guess CMT was the golden egg for them here. Gets removed from a large platform, and then you can just grift on it and continue to do that, and that's what they're doing here. So yeah, I think that's what's happening. I do not support these kinds of lyrics. Do I think the song needs to go away? No, I don't like that kind of censorship. I think if somebody wants to make something and create something, they should have every right to do that. But private companies are private companies. If a company doesn't want to share your music video or carry your content, they have every right not to do that. You're still allowed to make it. They're just not forced to carry the content, and that's usually within their terms of service. When you submit content to them or use it, I mean, YouTube, we have tons of terms of service over here. Sometimes they're enforced, sometimes they're not, but they do exist. They are a real thing. And so there we go. We're going to kind of wrap it up there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoy this format. If you do, please, if you're here on YouTube, hit subscribe, become part of the community over here. Leave a like and definitely leave a comment down below. What do you think of this Jason Aldean song and controversy? What do you think of the music video? I would really love to hear what you guys think. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure to follow me on there, and that way you get updates whenever the podcast comes out. So I want to thank everybody so much for watching and being a part of this, and I will see everyone in the next podcast. Take care.